Welcome to 9wax TV. My market analysis videos always seem to go down really well with enthusiasts and owners, but I've not actually done one on this channel yet this year. So in this video, we're going to be looking at the Porsche marketplace and what's happened so far in 2022, and more importantly, what we can expect for the summer and beyond. To do that, I'm going to be speaking to two independent Porsche specialists. To do that, I'm going to be speaking to two different Porsche sources from inside the industry. Jonathan Franklin from Jonathan Franklin Cars to begin with, followed by Greg Daly from RPM Technic. Both these guys are really clued up on the marketplace and, to be honest, have been involved in the marketplace and the industry for the last 20 years plus each. So they're really well placed to give us the inside track or just what's going on, and crucially, what we can expect from the Porsche marketplace in the months coming up. Let's start by visiting Jonathan Franklin. Jonathan Franklin from Jonathan Franklin Cars.
How you doing, Lee?
So, look, it's always awesome to chat to you on these market analysis videos. You've got a key insight from a buying and selling point of view in the trade, but also the finance side as well, with obviously rare car finance.
Yes, yep.
Businesses.
Yeah, we have quite a good insight into what lenders are doing, and who they're lending to, what sort of criteria they're requiring now, and that's as a result of obviously what's going on in the world at the moment. Which we're all kind of probably mindful of at the moment.
Look, we're going into summertime 2022 now. What's the state of play generally in the Porsche market?
I think classics are doing very well, so I don't think we've got any problems there. Newer stuff, probably, there's probably a few things as a buyer to be mindful of. I think some cars have got a little bit overheated in my opinion, and obviously that's probably due to the pandemic. People have probably got a bit carried away with prices and things, and I think there seems to me to be a bit of resistance now with buyers stroke sellers. I think people still want good money for their cars, or not good money, big money for their cars, and I think the buyers are starting to resist a little bit with probably the later stuff. As a rule, I mean, it's a bit different for the rarer cars like I don't know, 997 GT3s and the sort of modern classics backwards, but anything newer than 997 I think is probably, I don't know, in my opinion there's a bit of a question mark over some of the prices that are being paid. There's some really good cars out there for sale, and I've noticed some of them haven't moved quite so quickly as they normally would. And for me that just rings alarm bells that maybe there's a little bit of a correction coming on some cars. As I say, probably the more volume type cars.
That really interests me, because I've sort of been saying this for a while now on this channel. Say 992s, turbo S's and whatnot are at such kind of large inflated sums of money. That can't go on.
No, it can't, and it has. Like we've also said before, some of the sort of not normal. I mean, a 992 Turbo S, for example, isn't a normal car, is it? But it's not super rare now. And when they're sort of trading for up to £60,000-70,000 over list price, I just think it's a little bit. There's something that's got to give at some point.
I was looking on the 9wax marketplace. This was at the same dealer, a 992 Turbo S for 225, 230, whatever it was, and a 911R for 3 something. For not a lot more money in this scenario, one is a numbered and limited production GT department special.
Rare car.
To my mind, that can't continue.
That shows there's a bit of disjointedness between. It's, in some areas the market's getting a bit carried away. Don't get me wrong, I think people will still buy them, of course they will, but I don't think. I think soon the days of paying £60,000 over list for a 911 Turbo S, I can't see that happening for much longer, to be honest. And I'm feeling resistance from customers already that phone me to look out for specific cars, and they're saying not really at the moment. It's gone a bit far for me. And some of these guys are able to go and buy that sort of stuff financially, but they've got their sensible hat on, and they're sort of pulling the reins in a bit.
You did mention classics though.
Because of what's happening with electric cars and all the rest of it, and how that new market is progressing slowly, I think, but that makes the really older stuff a bit more appealing. And the fact that some of the cars I certainly deal with in particular are quite unusual and quite rare, I think there'll always be a good market for them.
You've got this whole like electric question running around these days, and you may look at a classic and go, well, is that kind of out of favour or whatnot? But you're saying, look, no, that's not the case, and actually...
Well, I'm probably the wrong person to ask because I'm obviously 911 mad, but then I do think that obviously there's a massive market for 911. I can't see that going away anytime soon. In fact, as you know, electric cars become more common, I think people are going to crave that analogue car that gave them some feedback and some fun. And going back to what's going on as well, as in the negative things I've just spoken about, I do think that despite the market, those sort of, you know, very good blue chip type Porsches, you know, they're going to continue to be coveted by collectors for years and years and years, I'm sure. I feel quite comfortable with, you know, some of the classics I've got. I'm not worried about them at all. I think they're still good investments as well as wonderful toys to have.
Any other kind of cars tip-wise where you think, look, you know, we need to be talking about this more?
Actually, I think 3.2 Carreras I think they should be more expensive. So there's a kind of buck in the trend from what I've said this morning. But yeah, I think they're quite an underrated car. You know, you look at 964, how berserk they've gone, and 993 a few years ago. They seem to have got left behind a bit. You know, they're a very usable, reliable, solid in most cases still classic car. So yeah, I think a nice late one of those, or maybe a restored SC, 3-litre SC. You could have a lot of fun for not too much money.
The 992 Sport Classic has been announced a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
What do you think that will do for 997?
Interesting.
Values?
So I've had probably 7 calls asking me for 997 Sport Classics. It's funny how new models and media and all that sort of stuff can affect this sort of thing. Fashion, I suppose it is, but yeah, it's interesting how all of a sudden the phone's been going berserk for Sport Classics.
Okay, so look, I think the takeaway messages really are perhaps be a little bit more scrupulous with the amount of money you're spending on certain cars.
Yeah, I think so. Look, it's difficult not to do one of these things and not upset someone. Yeah. As I say, I think the days of spending huge amounts of money over lists to get a nearly new 911 or any other car for that matter, I think are probably coming to a slow end. Which is great news for the enthusiast. It is, yeah. It is, yeah. On the back of that, yeah. As I just said, you can't please everyone with what you say, but you're right. Well, Mr. Jonathan Franklin Cars, thank you very much. Thank you.
Some really interesting views there from Jonathan Franklin. Let's see what Greg Daly at RPM Technic has to say.
Thank you very much for having us. Good to see you, mate.
It would be great to start with maybe a bit of a synopsis on how the Porsche market has been so far in 2022, leading up to the start of summer.
Interestingly, yesterday I got some stats for January and February. The volume of people searching for cars and then cars equally selling, because they're not always linked, was strong in January, February, and then stepped up in March and then April. Obviously, we haven't got too far the way through May at the moment, but nice to echo my gut feel that it's month to month sort of feels like it's getting busier, and there's more, you know, there's as many people searching for cars as we can get our hands on, sort of thing. So in a sentence, very positive.
Does it have a lot to do with the fact that buying new Porsches has proved very difficult for people over the last 12 months in terms of lead times, logistics, deliveries and that sort?
It's almost twofold, actually. The new car supply is very low, which has also then meant that owners of existing Porsches aren't trading them in. So then there's also a shortage of supply of good quality used cars, and that goes literally from 924 through to Carrera GT. Every single model there's buyers for. So it's kind of very rarely it's been at the top in terms of new stuff in, but also a shortage of used stuff out. So the pool of cars is sort of shrinking a bit.
Anecdotally, I've kind of got the impression that people are sitting on their hands a little bit, you know, maybe reluctant to part with the car that they have. So is that the case? And if so, to a greater or lesser extent, or?
Yeah, no, there is a certain amount of that, and I kind of always liken the little microcosm we all work in terms of Porsches. It's a bit almost like the housing market, because if you own a 997 GT3, the value of that is sort of linked indirectly to a 991 GT3, to a 992 GT3. So you tend to find that generally the buyers of the cars, or the owners of the cars, they don't want to come off of the market. So they don't want to sell, sit there and wait for the right car to come up for sale that they've been looking for, because the market might shift 5% in that 6-week period, which in some examples it has done. So what instead we're seeing is people waiting for the perfect car to crop up, and then they'll chop into the next one. So the volume of sales is still there, but because of people not wanting to sort of fall off the market or fall out of the market, it's just been a bit different to before, and I don't think that's going to change, to be honest, because also you've got, I'm no economist, but you know, inflation's rising, interest rates, okay, they have gone up a little bit, but interest on money on account is negligible. So if you have the opportunity of getting even a net zero return on something that you can touch, feel, go out with your mates in, socialise, have a laugh in, create some memories, a lot of people are doing that, which is kind of adding even more fuel to the fire, that people kind of go, well, I'm only going to live once, I've always wanted a 907 GTS, I'm just going to get on and do it.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so definitely still a little bit of kind of carpe diem involved there, maybe as a consequence of the pandemic and whatnot as well. So that's really cool. Look, that leads on nicely, Greg, to where we're at now, and perhaps more importantly, where you see the Porsche market going, certainly for summer.
Yeah, I think for the summer, based on, again, you know, at the coalface every day right now, supply of cars is not changing at all. It's a continual battle for us all to get good quality stock in that our clients want. So that sometimes, you know, we'll maybe have a week where you kind of go, oh gosh, you know, there's a lot of people contacting us about selling and not buying, and the balances swing. But certainly at the moment, it's more buyers than sellers that are out there. I think whether the amount of like cool events that people are now putting on are giving people more inspiration of why they would want to own a car, other than the obvious that you've got a beautiful Porsche in your driveway. Certainly for the summer, the new car supply is not going to change. A lot of dealers you speak to, you know, they just 12 months for some of the most, and longer for some of the most desirable models. But also you've got the other unknown, but you know, we've all heard stories that the next sort of iteration of 911, certainly Boxster and Cayman, may not be purely petrol engined, either hybrid or potentially fully electric. And so people kind of going, I didn't, you know, whilst electric Porsches, I have no doubt an electric Cayman will be an absolute hoot. The current crop of buyers that we're dealing with have never dreamt of, I've always wanted an electric Cayman. They've always gone, I want a 8,000 RPM, amazing sounding car. So that's kind of making people go, maybe I should get that car now, before the end of this sort of, you know, era of production finishes. So I just can't see it for the time being. But you know, you track it month on month. But I'm sure many of my counterparts at other specialists would probably echo the same.
No real worries then, I suppose, as to where the market's going?
No, and you know, the cynics that are potentially listening or watching this will go, yeah, of course you're going to say that. But you know, my answer to that would be is, you know, choose a particular car, track it, see how long it stays online or at a dealer, and it's not very long.
Are there any specific Porsche models, 911 and outside the 911 range, that you think, look, these are really good news or underrated?
Yeah, there is. The first one that springs to mind at the moment is good quality 996 GT3s. Because of, you know, in the last 6-12 months, obviously the new 992 GT3s come out, it always breeds a bit of extra oxygen into the fire. The most accessible in terms of financials is a 996, and they were when they were like 40, 60 grand, which, let's not get carried away, is still a huge investment of cash. They were too cheap, and now we're trading cars. We just sold a beautiful speed yellow Comfort, buckets and cage, 23,000 miles. It was online less than a week, and that sold at 90k. So the good quality 996 GT3s are super news, like them. Can be a little bit prep hungry because they're 19 years old now, and they've obviously been driven on track, the majority of them. So they're a great one. I think if you go newer, certainly GTSs are very popular cars, because not everybody wants an out-and-out track car, and they may need the 4 seats, and they may need a bit more comfort, and therefore that car sits perfectly in between a C2S, which is still a great car, but a GT3. So its market appeal is massive, rather than quite a niche one. And also we seem to be seeing that all the Spider range, anything from 987, 981, 718 Spiders are popular, which is time of the year. Honestly, it's quite a generic answer, but across the board, as long as it's good quality stock, Porsche that's been looked after, lovely history, good condition, there's callers and buyers for all of them.
Brilliant. Okay, wow, that is, I'm sure great news and very confidence inspiring for a lot of people watching this channel. So Greg at RPM, thank you so much for your insights.
No worries, thanks for having us, Lee.
And there we have it, 2 fairly different views on the Porsche marketplace, but there are a lot of overlaps between what Jonathan and Greg were saying. Despite the fact events around the world are proving challenging for lots of different people, it seems the Porsche market, as ever, is nice and steady, and it will continue to be that way for the rest of summer 2022. We'll pick this up again come the autumn to see how things went and what we can expect going into winter. Until then, don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on notifications to make sure you stay up to date with all my Porsche content, and I'll see you soon.